Right. Uh, First of all, I would like to say that I'm happy to share to everyone. It's a festival we celebrate here in India, and it's a very important festival that we celebrate. So happy to share to everyone, even if you don't celebrate it, that's okay. So, I'm audible.
Yes, you are. Yes.
Right. So let's begin today's session. Keep the back and neck straight, and very gently close your eyes. Start observing your breathing. Make sure that you are comfortable and stable in your posture. Now slowly begin to deepen the breathing. Relax the mind and prepare it for chanting Om. We'll chant Om together, followed by the Shanti mantra. Inhale deeply for Om. Sarve Bhavantu Sarve Santu Sarve Shanti. The vibrations of the month. Join the palms together and rub the palms together. Keep them on here. very slowly while breathing and you can start. So yeah, just take out time for your own meal, right? So I hope you would catch it. Try that out of 3 meals, 1 meal is like that in your day. And if you weren't able to do it, then no worries. You have today. You can take out time today. And I know today you can take out time because in India we have an off, right? For most people, there's an off today. So today you can definitely take the time, right? So try and incorporate those little things that I talked about yesterday. So we were discussing about food only yesterday. So a little bit more was left on the topic of food. So I'll just quickly cover that up. So before I go to the various categories of food, it's very important to talk about some other things also when it comes to eating, right? So it is very good to sit on the ground and eat, right? So in India, to go back into tradition, most places still you will see, especially in South India, you will see some part of the country. People sit on the ground and eat, right? So that is actually, it provides you a lot of space. It provides you the correct posture. So when you sit cross-legged, you stop the blood circulation from going down. So all the blood, like the digestion process increases because of this. The blood circulation is like a little bit in the way you sit when the blood is not flowing right towards the leg. You are making sure that the energy remains. Basically, you are making sure the energy remains and the upward position of the body, and digestion is connected to your abdomen. So when you sit cross-legged, or there are other different postures also sitting. I'm sure you'll cover in Ayurveda also. So those are ideal postures for eating, right? So making sure that you throw out all the furniture from your home, right? Yeah, that is not required. You expend so much, you take so much time thinking what is the correct choice, which table is perfect, which chairs will go perfectly, right? So you guys can just go ahead and free yourself from all of those choices. Best ways to sit on the ground in a cross-legged position, or some other positions also you can adopt. But normally speaking, even cross-legged position is very good. So you can go ahead and do that. And when you eat the food, in India, we again have this tradition of eating the food with the hand, right? So no knives, no forks, no spoons, nothing you will find when you come over here. You see a lot of people, sit on the ground and eat their food, like with their hands, right? And that also has a just give me. Okay. So it should be better now. Yeah.
Oh, it's perfect now. Thank you.
Yeah. So if you come to Indian tradition, you will see a lot of people eating food with their hands, and which is actually correct. There is reason behind it. So no forks, no spoons, no knives. So again, a lot of decision making and money saved over there. So you can go ahead and throw those out as well. Right. So when you sit on the ground, cross-legged position, and you eat from a hand, so in modern times we use straws to consume drinks, right? For a lot of reasons, people prefer straws these days, right? And sometimes you will see something is too cold or too warm, and when they use the straw to drink that, they end up having that cold or warm sensation in their mouth, right? And if you have sensitive teeth, then it will last for a longer period of time for you, right? So when we are not in contact with the food we are about to put into our mouth, then burning the mouth, all of these things end up happening, right? So when you sit on the ground and eat the food with your hands, the temperature of the food, if it is suitable for the hands, then it will never burn your mouth. You will see this thing. So when you use spoons, that is when, sometimes we end up burning the tongue, right? But if your hands come in contact and you are not able to pick that food up, right, to eat, that means it is too hot for you right now. You cannot eat it and it's going to burn your mouth, right? And if it when it becomes okay, when your hand is able to bear that temperature, that same temperature your mouth will be also be able to bear, right? So even though these things were, as I said, earlier, all of these things were passed down from one generation to the other. Nobody questioned these too much or put logic behind them too much. They did have their own like reasoning behind it, which we are understanding now. Like earlier, we weren't able to correlate these things or find the scientific things behind all of these things. But it is always good to eat the food with the hands in order to avoid this. And of course, you are when you use the hands, again the food tastes very different, right? When you eat food with uh, suppose you just eat the same food with a spoon, right? Do that and then eat it with your hands, you will see a difference in the taste of the food. Literally, you will feel it if you are if your mind is really focused on eating at that point of time. You will see that the taste has somewhat changed, right? You're more in touch with your own body when you eat the food with your hands. You will have a sense of greater awareness when you do this thing. So next time when you are eating, you guys can go ahead. If you have a lot of furniture and a lot of cutlery in your house, you can go ahead donate it, throw it away because you don't need it. Okay. And so begin decluttering your life, because most of the things that are present right now, which we aim to acquire, we actually do not need them, right? So now let me come to the category of foods, right? So as I said yesterday, also sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic food items are there. So when we come to sattvic food, the pranic energy, like the pranic value of that food is very high, right? So one thing is always try to consume food which is grown in your area, right? From area to area, the food that is grown varies, right? So certain temperatures support certain type of crops, right? And other temperature will support other type of crops. So if you come to India and you come to the mountain region, you will see they have specific kind of food that they consume over here, because that food, generates heat in the body and it gets very cold over here. Like on the mountains, it gets very, very cold. So the kind of, food they consume, it generates heat in their body and it makes them more adaptable to their environment. And same thing if you live in a tropical region or in like close to sea, right? You will see that you will observe this thing that over there more like coconut water is very easily available over there because sun is on your head, right? And dehydration can take place very easily. So the areas that are close to beaches, you will see a lot of coconut trees growing over there, because the climate is such and that area is such that it requires the consumption of these things. So no matter whenever you travel or wherever you are right now, try to consume the local food, right, of that region, and seasonal food, right? So because of a lot of technology these days, all the food is available throughout the year. So suppose watermelon, you will be able to find watermelon even in winters, but consuming it during winters can actually cause ill effects to your own body, right? So some fruits and vegetables, they are seasonal in nature, so make sure that you consume them in their season rather than but they will be available throughout the year, right? Because we have developed too much, right? So try to avoid during their off season like that fruit or vegetable and consume that fruit or vegetable when it is the season of that fruit and vegetable. So that is going to highly impact the value of or the like I said, the pranic value of the that food, seasonal fruit or vegetable at that point of time, it is going to be different. And when it is grown against the conditions of the nature, then that same food is going to have very different energy value that it is going to add to your body. When it comes to sattvic food, milk products, consumption of milk, consumption of vegetarian food, light in nature, pulses, cereals, wheat, all of these things, rice, and sugar in its natural form, natural oils, jaggery, honey, all of these things come under the category of sattvic food because again they are unprocessed in nature, right? Like boiled vegetables and fruits, or sorry, boiled vegetables and fresh fruits and even dried fruits. They are also very good source of sattvic food, right? So you guys can go ahead and increase the consumption of these things in your life because they are going to add more energy to your body depending on the season, right? And they are mostly unprocessed in nature. So try to consume food items which go through very little processing at least. Like you cannot control everything from the ground level, right? But when food becomes more and more processed, it loses its pranic value, right? Because the more processing it adds, then that food we can store it for a longer period of time, but there is no point, right, of storing that food for so long, right? Because the pranic value is not over there, so it doesn't matter. You are able to store the food. That isn't the standard, right? But when you consume it, if the pranic value is low, then what's the point of even like storing it, right? So even though we did have natural ways of storing certain things, so like pickles. So pickles are like trying to store the fruit, right, or the vegetable. So those things are still okay, but when you go against nature and try to store the food, right, that is when it gets problematic. Okay. Then we come to Rajasic food. So Rajasic food, like I told you, it is heavy to digest and it is mostly consumed by people who are into very rigorous activity. So all the heavy food items that exist that make your body like basically when spices are added in the food, that is the best metric to see. So sattvic food can become Rajasic or Tamasic food depending on how you are cooking it. Okay, so it doesn't mean that if I say that milk is sattvic in nature, then milk cannot be tamasic in nature. It can be, depending on how it is processed, what are the preservatives, what are the things that are added to it, right? So when I say milk, when I say all of these things like khichdi, if I add too much spice to that khichdi, it will not remain sattvic anymore, right? So same food can again be under either of the categories depending on how you are cooking it. Okay. So when it comes to Rajasic food, like most, especially North Indians, we guys, we like a lot of spices, right, in our food, and we enjoy those spices, right? So those things, generate a lot of heat in the body. You will see if you eat too spicy food, like if your food is too spicy, then you will be very agitated for some period of time after that. And especially if the spice is a little bit more than what you can bear, you will immediately see this thing. Your mind immediately it becomes very very disturbed, right? Immediately it becomes disturbed, and you take some time to calm down your nerves, right? So all of these spices, these generate too much heat. They generate restless activity in the mind, and hence they are considered to be Rajasic. And when I was teaching you three gunas also, I told you restless restless activity, too much movement, it is connected to rajas, right? So when you consume this kind of food, that is kind of how you will be, very restless, roaming around here and there. Sometimes we eat our food and we become very, very restless. So understand that that is Rajasic food. That is the food making you, be so restless, or the thoughts become too much, right? So be very careful when you are consuming your food. When it comes to tamasic food, once again, tamasic, as I told you, highly processed food, too many preservatives are added, like preservatives are added in general also. And, um, things which we really love, pastries, chocolates, tea, coffee, which have become a part of a day-to-day routine. Basically, you just have tea or coffee, right? You don't think about it. You wake up in the morning and you have tea or coffee, right? So all of these things, consumption of packed food, all foods, all those biscuits that you really like, so you'll have to give up a lot if you are planning to go deeply into the practice of yoga. uh, all the chips that you eat, right? All of these things that we consume, which have no pranic value, next to no pranic value at all. They're just very tasty, so we eat them, right? Alcohol, all of these things which are going on because, people are just too habitual, right? It's a habit when somebody, develops taste for alcohol. First time when anybody tries, they have such a bad expression on their face. I don't think first time whenever someone consumes alcohol, they like it. They had this really bad expression on their face, and they're just like, it's overhyped, we did not like it. Why do adults do this thing, and then eventually, when you, because of peer pressure, when you start consuming more and more, you develop a taste for it, right? So if you have a taste for alcohol, that means that you have made yourself habitual to that taste, right? Appreciating that taste, right? So it's just about a matter of breaking that habit. Like same goes for tea and coffee. We are too habitual, we cannot open our eyes without the coffee being in front of us, or there being tea, right? Most Indian families, first thing wake up and we make tea, right? So all of these things, they are changing our life. They are making us dependent on them. If you see tea also, your day cannot start if you do not drink tea. And if someday you are not given tea or coffee, your day goes so miserable. It's just like, today is so, I feel so lethargic, I feel so dull. So I've created that kind of dependency on these things, and they really, even though we feel we are more active, we are more energized because of them, they are tamasic in nature. So eventually they are going to give you that sense of dullness only. Mind, body, you can see anywhere, it is going to give you that sense of dullness, it is going to create that dependency. So be very careful. And by this, I don't mean that today if you take 5 cups of coffee, tomorrow you abandon altogether. So see, for anything, you have to go step by step. When it comes to, especially working on the food, you have to go step by step. So you will have to, if you're taking 5 cups of coffee today, tomorrow try to reduce it to 4 cups, right? Then work with that amount for a few days. Then when you feel ready, then come to 3, right? So very slowly you have to make these changes. Otherwise, you will end up suppressing your own like desire to consume them, right? And which is going to take you into take you to that point where you completely even stop trying, and then you go into too much indulgence, right? So sometimes when we try to restrict ourselves from eating something or consuming something, right, and we are just like, no, I'm not going to do it at all. And after a particular point of time, when you are too stressed, or you know you are not working with your logical mind, you completely go into too much indulgence. You order too many ice creams or too many momos, right? And then you want to just eat them at once, and you're just saying, no, I'm not going to restrain myself at all. So don't go into this pattern where you are going into extremes. Work step by step. So now you recognize where you are, what your overall diet is, in which category does it fall mostly. So step by step, start, directing it towards more and more sattvic food, right? So non-vegetarian, again, are not preferable, especially when you are doing yoga sadhana. So go for sattvic food, which is vegetarian in nature. Okay. So any doubts so far? Otherwise, I will move to next point. Again, we have a lot of other things also to discuss in lifestyle. Any doubts? Okay, great. Okay. So let's come to the second thing, which is vihar. Recreation. Vihara. Vihar or recreation. Right. So when you are on your yoga journey, right? So a lot of things start coming up, a lot of overwhelming emotions, and it doesn't mean that if you are not like if you are practicing yoga, it doesn't give you that free pass that you will not get angry or you will not have emotional outbursts, right? So most people think that if you have been meditating for a few number of years, or if you have been practicing yoga for quite some time, you will not get angry or those emotions don't come up. But actually the reality is that they do. You do get angry. Maybe you're not as triggered as you were before, you are working on it, but you do get angry, you do get quite emotional. If something happens in your life which is not favorable, you experience unpleasant emotions, and you're human, right? You will take them out, you will get angry at someone, you might end up shouting at them, or might end up crying because something is hurting you too much, right? So yoga practitioner never denies their emotions, right? And if you believe that spiritual journey is going to be like all good, uh, it is not. It's like any other thing, it has good and bad days, and that shouldn't concern you because you are aiming to rise above all of these things, right? So if you believe that you have been practicing for a while and you should not experience anger, then let me change this myth for you. You are allowed. Okay. And that is why when we look at yoga as a lifestyle thing, recreation becomes very important. Why? Because the mind, you are existing in this day-to-day world, you are not like yogi living the life, and that is very advanced stage. Okay. We want to implement whatever we learn in our day-to-day life, right? We want to implement those things so that we can see some change in our life rather than just leaving everything behind. Yeah, and we shouldn't. It's our responsibility, to provide for our families, to provide for our own self. Right now we cannot, right? So when you exist in this world, you are having interaction with the world consistently, right? uh, there are bound to be a lot of emotional, mental ups and downs that you will see in life. So recreation becomes a very important part for you because recreation helps you to relax, right? If you think about something you really like to do, right? When you do that thing, right, you forget about everything else. Suppose you like listening to music, right? When you put on your headphones, you click that on that song which you really love and it starts playing, complete change of mood, right? Earlier I was very irritated, angry, frustrated, but when that music plays, the entire day changes, right? Similarly, if you like drawing, if you like, painting, if you like dancing, if you like singing, playing an instrument, right? So all of these things, whichever one you love, when you start doing these things, you see that there is a genuine improvement in your mood. Not only when you are having your bad days, but even recreation. When we talk of recreation as a part of yoga, we say that recreation should be a part of your day-to-day life. So make time every day for yourself, right? Be it 15 minutes or 30 minutes. 30 minutes, I would say you should keep minimum, because you're doing so many things in your life for other people. So why not take out minimum 30 minutes for yourself during the day, right? So for those 30 minutes every day, show up and do that thing that you enjoy. Not only will you see that it helps you to navigate through the tough days in your life, you will also see that overall the how you are managing your life, how you're managing everybody around you, right? It completely changes when you create time for your own self. So recreation can be any activity which helps you to channel all those emotions, channel your mental energy, and direct it towards a much more positive experience, something that you really enjoy doing, something that you completely love doing, right? You should make time for it, and not just when you are going through a tough phase. You should make time for it each and every day. It is going to impact how you exist with the people around you. When you start making time for your own self, people will see how you are interacting, or you used to get irritated by such little things, but now, because the mind gets some space to relax, right? It's a more relaxation. Recreation gives more relaxation to your mind, and your gives you some emotional space, right? So it can be anything. Again, these are very conventional examples that I gave, where you play an instrument or dance. It can be anything for you. Maybe you just like praying, or you like taking out time every day to journal, right? It can be anything for you, but something that you love, where you are completely able to just be with yourself. And no matter how your day goes, you look forward to those 30 minutes, right, in your day. You are just like, okay, when you have set aside a time, when this time of the day is going to come, you are going to enjoy it, right? So right now also start making time for yourself. It can be yoga also, like you guys come for your classes, right? Maybe you really enjoy doing this thing. So this is right now your me time, right, where you are away from everything else and just connecting over here in the class, and just trying to understand and learn something new, right? So but after these classes end, again you need to have something, right, which keeps you uh, in a healthy state of mind, right? So recreation, it can even be sleep, but not like sleeping just for the sake of sleeping because you are lazy, right? So sometimes when we take few naps and we actually feel refreshed, so that kind of sleep which makes you feel much energized after you do that thing. Sometimes we sleep and we wake up so lethargic, right? So not that kind of nap I'm talking about. So be very wise when you choose this, and you can again, if you take out 30 minutes, I think you can only do one thing, but if you prefer, you can divide that time as per your own understanding, right? It's totally up to you. Okay, so let's come to the next thing. Are there any doubts so far? Any doubts related to anything?
No doubts, thank you. I love the concept of me time.
Yeah, it is very good. But again, in me time, do something healthy. So sometimes, people take out that me time and they go and they just, gossip about other people, right? Or they just go and, you know, smoke a cigarette. So that kind of me time is to be avoided, right? That is negative me time. Go towards positive me time. Yeah. So I wrote the next one, achar. ACHARA. So this is another very interesting thing. So the right form of conduct, so right food, right recreation and right conduct, right? When we talk of conduct, we are basically referring to your day-to-day attitude, right? Sorry, your overall attitude, right, towards something, and your overall habits, right? Overall way of interaction, right? Where you develop this thing, right? So I can choose, I can um, I can develop this habit that I say thank you to someone when they do something for me, right? So I work on developing this, and after a while, it becomes a habit. So after a few days, you will see then that when somebody does something for you, thank you comes automatically, right? So it's an attitude that I developed, that okay, something is being done for me, so I say thank you, right? Or you can say that if you wrong someone or somebody feels hurt because of your action, so you say sorry, right? Sorry is so easy to say, but we hesitate so many times, right? So just go ahead and say sorry. Initially it will take a lot of effort working on yourself, but eventually it will come automatically to you when your mind develops and you create that habit, that okay, even if I don't think it's hurtful, it did hurt someone, you know. So developing these kinds of attitudes and behaviors, right, which are going to help you to navigate through whatever you are dealing with, right? So when we come to yoga, Patanjali ji again has talked of yamas and niyamas, like I was mentioning that day. Yamas are mostly uh, how we interact with the society, right? So suppose one of them is satya or truthfulness, right? So if I keep going around lying, right, it becomes a habit. You will see some people have the habit of lying, right? They cannot help it. Even if they want to tell you the truth, after a while, their environment, their whole pattern of conducting themselves becomes in this way, but they lie, right? And there, on the other hand, you can again work on this mental attitude where you, uh, whatever you say, right? It doesn't matter what everybody else is doing around you, because you are going to settle your own account, right? You are not going to settle somebody else's account. You will settle your own account, right? So whenever you interact with someone, try to incorporate that honesty, right, as far as you can. Again, it's very extreme in today's world, especially when we interact with a lot of situations. It's not even ideal to tell the truth, right? It will get you into a lot of trouble, but you can slowly work on the big lies maybe that you say, and come to the small lies, right? And then see how you can work on eradicating, because when they become small, now most of your life you are being honest about who you are or what you're doing. So when you come down to that stage, then you will see you lie about very little petty things, like I did not see that thing, or I did not see that person, just to avoid some conversation or some situation, right? So then you can slowly start working on these small lies, and every once in a while you will be like, you know what, I did see that person, right? So even though it's going to lead to some conversation that you are not looking forward to, right? So but it will help you to slowly eliminate all of these lies, right? Which makes you in fact a very reliable person, if you ask me. It's a great quality to develop, right? If somebody comes to you and somebody knows that you're going to be honest, right, they will appreciate you for it. Nobody likes being lied to. Even if you are, whatever you tell them, it might be sometimes hurtful to the other person, but they know they can count on you if they want a genuine review, right? Genuine response, right? So it's a very uh, initially we think it's not a very attractive quality, but uh, others around us really appreciate, when we are being truthful, even if sometimes it might hurt the other person. Maybe the other person is not able to come out of that comfort zone, right? When you tell them the truth that, you know what, you have been doing this thing, right, and it's not good. So initially they will resist that, but eventually they will think about it, especially if it is somebody who is really close to you in your life or who you really love. Right? They're going to give that thing a thought, and eventually maybe they will come to this conclusion that you were right. Even if, and when you think back on your own life, you will see sometimes somebody said something very hurtful to you, but it helped you to grow, yeah, develop as a human being, because then you were actually able to see what you were doing, right? So like this, Patanjali ji gave 5 yamas and niyamas, which again we will discuss in depth when we come to the concept of Ashtanga Yoga, right? But these yamas and niyamas, they play an integral role in developing your character, right? And your own sense of values, your own morals and values that you develop, that you act upon in your life, no matter what kind of situation you face in your life. When somebody knows that your conduct is correct, you know even if it might hurt them, they are going to rely on it. Is those intrinsic values that we develop over our lifetime that makes people, on not only for people you are doing this, but again, it is a very beautiful quality when you stick to what you believe in, right? And you act accordingly rather than how the situation is swaying you to act, right? So these things, they are so important, because on the path, when you walk on this path, right, you're going to face a lot of such situations, right? I would say more than a common person, you will face such situations, because now you're becoming more conscious of everything that you're doing. A common person will not be aware of what the person is doing. They will just go about their lives in a mechanical way. But you guys have taken that step where you have decided, no, I have to work on myself. There is something that I need to work upon, right? So when you come to the right conduct, you see that, okay, I have to work on this thing also you will consistently work on, right? And you will uh, find so many obstacles, like I was saying, right? You will become aware of so many obstacles that are there present in front of you, but you will be able to navigate through them with a lot of sense of character, right? Because if you lose that along the way, then again, like I said, you will be able to reach to a very high level, right? Even in your yoga sadhana, you will be able to. But at the end of it, it is the ego, it is your lack of character which will take you back in your journey and not take you forward. So that is why one of the major reasons why Patanjali placed this before was because the character, the morals of the person are developed, so that when they move ahead on their path and they face those obstacles, they are mentally ready. Their willpower is developed. It is not that easy to tell the truth all the time. It requires so much mental power, so much willpower, right? You have to train the mind that no, so many times it's going to be tempting, but you are giving that training to the mind. So making the mind ready, you're making the mind stronger, right? So it's a lot of mental training that you have to do when you're beginning on the path of Rajyoga. That is why yamas and niyamas eventually, as we came down to today's time, they were removed. Hatha Yoga removes them. Hatha Yoga says first work on the body, the breathing, right? Stabilize those things, then your mind will be ready to stick to them. Otherwise, you will give up too soon. And again, you don't have to go to extremes when I talk of the yamas and niyamas as well. You can work on one thing at a time, just taking baby steps. But taking the step is so important because you started your journey, right? So taking that first step is so important, right? It is going to make a difference in your life. And then the main thing is that you give it that consistency, right? So brushing your teeth every day, like this is a very common example. Brushing your teeth every day, 2 minutes a day does nothing. Does it do anything? No. But if you don't brush your teeth for 6 months and you go to the dentist once in 6 months, all your teeth will fall out, right? So it's not about like just taking the yoga course. It's like going to the dentist. This course is like going to the dentist. Like those checkups are good, right? And you should go for them every once in a while. but it's the 2 minutes of brushing the teeth when you wake up and when before you go to sleep that is going to actually make that difference in your life, right? So start incorporating whatever you can, like out of these classes, whatever you can, other classes also, whatever you understand and you feel that it is doable, start adding those things and you will sorry, see that change in your life, right? So let's come to our next point. Please feel free to unmute yourself and finish your point and ask me any question if you have it. Okay. So next one. Which are VICHARA, right? Okay. So thoughts. I can go on and on about thoughts, right? Most of us are struggling with thoughts only, right? So it's a mind which drives us crazy, right? But when you see a lot of motivational examples in your life, you see that it is their thoughts that took them to that level, right? So now you see how destructive your thoughts can be on one side, right, where you are struggling. And then when you see somebody actually break out of those things, so many motivational stories, so many people who motivate us every day, right? If you listen to their stories, so you see that, they kept their mind very strong, they kept their thoughts very positive, and they reached what they were, where the target they were aiming for. So they reached that point, right? So thoughts play a very influential role in our life. We would like to believe that they don't, right? But they do, right? On your actions, on your speech. First thing that comes is in the mind. When it comes into your mind, that is when you actualize those things, like a few years back, nobody would have thought of touchscreen phones, smartphones, or things like Zoom. Before COVID, so many things did not exist. Now full meetings, courses, proper courses, like your courses being conducted on an online platform. Earlier, nobody would have thought of this thing. Would they have? No. So first the thought came that such a phone could exist, where I could touch the screen and I would have so many apps. Those small tiny phones used to come, used to dial on them. And even before that, there used to be that landline, right, where you went in circles and then you, like, with every digit, like you dialed the entire phone number, right, and then you called, right, and connected with someone. And even before that, even this seemed impossible. People used to travel from one place to the other without knowing if that the person in their family or somebody they really love and know has reached safely or not, right? These days, we are so well connected. 10 times your mom will call you when you are going outside, meeting your friends. 10 times your dad is going to call you, when are you coming back, right? Like that, or have you reached safely wherever you were headed to, right? So this thought came in the mind that something like this could be done and we could communicate, could increase our communication, we could connect with everybody around the world, right? And then this idea, when this came up, it was actualized in the form of smartphones, in the form of internet connectivity, right? Even landlines, all that wire work, all of these things, first thing came into the mind. And that is why mind is a very powerful tool. Because if you can think of something, I see no reason why you cannot do it, because if you go 20, 30 years even back, people will not believe that something like a smartphone could exist. Right? They will not believe, even if you can travel back in time and you tell them, something like that exists, they will not be able to believe it. But somebody thought of it, came up with something which could actually make this thing work. Right? So if something comes into your mind, it can lead to a greater sense of existence in your life, or it can completely deplete your life, right? So that is the other side of the mind, where if not trained, if left um, just like that, where you are not working on it consistently, it can be the cause of a lot of destruction, right? So when it comes to yoga, yoga greatly emphasizes, at least in the beginning, to develop the thoughts in a manner where they are at least positive, right? Right now, we have a very complaining mind. If I show you 11 things, right, 10 of them are perfect and one is totally like, distasteful. Your mind will go, why is that thing so distasteful? Or why is that thing wrong? You will not see the rest of the 10, which are perfect, right? So we have trained our mind in such a way where we look for uh, reasons or things why they would not work, or what is the flaw in that thing, right? And we have completely forgotten the rest of the 10 perfect things that are there, right? So you have to work on this consistently, right? When it comes to thought, the way in which you think, whatever you focus on, you will see that thing becoming true. Anything you are not attached to, try to do this today. So for today, what you can do is uh, anything that you are not attached to, suppose XYZ thing or XYZ person, right? First, think something very good about them, right? And then you will see your mind, supports you with a lot of memories of why that thing or that person is really, really good. You will find, okay, one day this thing happened, and that is why, and this person helped me. So person is very good. Then that happened. This person is very good, and then shift your, after a while when you find a few memories, completely abandon this and shift your thinking to that person is evil. Okay. And then you will see your mind starts coming up with memories where you thought that the third person was insensitive towards you, or why they are evil, right? So it's your thought which is giving that status to that person, right? So you will have almost equal memories in both the baskets, right? And that is when you see how, when you change your mind, the entire everything around that thing, how you think, everything around you is going to um, uh, align itself to support that thinking, right? And that is why the mind is very tricky to work with, right? So you can create that same thought to be positive or to be negative, right? So it's totally up to you. And when we talk of yoga, we are working towards at least making, in the beginning, making the mind come to a positive way of living, right? Where we see the good in life rather than just seeing life as, it's going on, right? We see life is so important, as you do these little tiny, tiny changes in your life, you will see how valuable life is, right? So it's already time. I will elaborate a little bit more on this tomorrow, and then we'll finish this topic tomorrow, right? So are there any doubts? Okay.
Everything was clear. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll talk a little bit more on this tomorrow. So let's end today's session, right? So Shanti to everyone. I will see you in the afternoon for your pranayam class. Until then, keep practicing whatever you can out of whatever you are getting out of these classes. So bye-bye and Shanti.
Shanti, thank you.